Hey guys, and welcome to another Tutorial Tuesdays with PixLab. Alright, so this week we're going to be doing another user request, and this one came in from a user on Reddit. I'll be mentioning him or her in the description below. Quite honestly, your username is pretty strange to pronounce, so I'm just going to write it down in the description. Anyway, so today the user request is that we create a health bar system in Unity 5. Now we're going to be covering how to create the health bar system in full, along with the adding health, subtracting health, restarting the same level, having a pop-up dialog, and we will be using the Unity UI system, which is available in Unity 5 and is still pretty new. Now I'm not going to be covering any animation animator functions or scripts, really, because that is just beyond the scope of this tutorial. We're going to keep it basic. As you guys know, I like to keep it basic when we do these tutorials for you guys, because I like to give you guys the basis and you guys can grow along with me as we go along. So I'm going to just open up Unity. I have it open already, and I've opened the project. Well, we're using the same project as we always use, which is PixLab's tutorials. And as you can see here in the left bottom corner, we have all our other tutorials: day-night tutorial, pause menu, splash screen tutorial, and now our health bar tutorial. Now what you guys can see in front of you is the finished product. What you can see is a green ball in the middle of the scene. That would be our player. We have some lighting going on here. We have a blue cube and a red cube on the scene here. All of this on a black, on a black plane. I went for a more dark sort of scene this time around. Now the basic idea is that you control the sphere, and if you hit the red cube, which would be your enemy, your life subtracts. If you hit the blue cube, your life increases. Once your life is below 0, then you die. A pop-up will pop up and it will tell you that you have died and that you can restart the level. So I have a very basic player control script which I wrote because I found that the character control script that came with Unity 5 was maybe a bit of an overkill for this one. And I really wanted a bit of realistic physics onto the ball here that we have in the middle of the screen. So I'm going to quickly show you guys what I've got going on. On top of my sphere, I have a collider, which is just a sphere collider that will basically keep our player on the floor and keep it from intersecting with other objects with colliders attached to them. Along with that, I have a rigid body which will control the physics. Now, in order to use the script that we'll be writing today, you will have to have both collider and rigid body attached to your player. The reason for that is we'll be using the built-in method called onCollisionEnter, which basically handles the collisions that come from the rigid body, but the rigid body requires a collider to calculate those collisions. So unfortunately, if you have no rigid bodies on your characters, this won't work. There is a workaround for it. You can use the built-in method called onTriggerEnter, where you don't have a rigid body but you have a collider, which is a trigger. So if I open up my collider and I select this is trigger and I turn that to true, it should work. However, for my personal use, or in this game at least, that wasn't necessary. Along with that, I have a health control finished script, which is the completed script that I have written. You'll see that it has a script component at the top, a health bar component, which is just the graphic of this health bar, and our health level, which is at 100 right now, and our restart dialog, which, if you've seen the pause screen or the pause menu tutorial, you'll know what I'm talking about. This is the pop-up dialog that I've created inside of my canvas field here, which is at the moment is disabled and will pop up once you reach the bottom of your life bar. So that's basically it. And then I have a player movement script. I added a little R to the end for no apparent reason. I actually think it was a typo. So player movement basically just adds force to the rigid body based on your input. I'm not going to cover that in this tutorial. If you guys would like to see me create this character controller for you and teach you how to script it from scratch, I will do that, but for this tutorial it is unnecessary. However, what I will do is quickly open it up and show you what I've done. It's very, very simple. So, the player movement controller, here we go. Basically it has a float value called power, which is set to 10, and in the update method we get the rigid body component, so get component rigid body dot add force, and it takes a new vector 3, so a vector 3 value. I've added a new vector 3 value based on the input of horizontal times power and the input of vertical times power. On the y-axis I'm not adding anything. Now if you wanted to add a jump system, you could add it there based on perhaps the input of the spacebar, but for this tutorial it really is unnecessary. Now I'm going to jump right in. I'm going to give you guys a quick demonstration of what happens on screen. So I hit play and we're in the scene. I now have full control over the sphere that moves around in the scene. It is a bit hard to control, I'm not going to lie. So again, the basic idea is that blue is life, red is death or enemy in this case. So if I move into the blue at the moment, my life is full, so nothing happens. However, if I move to the enemy, I hit the enemy, you'll see that up here my life is now decreased, and if I then go back to the blue cube, my life will increase back again. Now I've set the step quite large. I think I have it at 20 decrease and 30 increase. You could set this to 1, so if your character gets hit by a bullet, it could decrease 1 or half a point even, because we're using a float variable for this, so you have full control over how much of it is being subtracted or added at a time. Now if I hit the red cube repeatedly, there will be a pop-up that will tell me that I have now used all my life and died, and I then have the option to restart this level. So there, you died, would you like to replay the level? Then I say replay level, it restarts the level. Nothing too fancy about this, guys. So let me just show you how the script works for the health bar here. If I go to player and I decrease the health amount, you'll see that it slowly pans down and then it slows back up. Now it's told me that I've died because I've gone below 0. So I think let's just jump right into it. I'm going to open the starting scene, which I've created already. So you would have to have your scene ready already on your Unity project right now, and go to your player and make sure that he has a player control script, a rigid body, and a sphere collider. Again, you guys are welcome to work around to use the workaround for the rigid body component. Instead of using a collider, you could use a collider that is a trigger. So let's go along and let's set up our scene. So I want to talk to you really quickly about this. I'm just going to be doing the same as the other scene, 2 cubes, and those 2 cubes will also have colliders on top of them. Excuse me. Alright, so let's just create a new 3D object. We say we add a cube. We're going to add that to 0, 0, 0. And I'm going to scale it up to 2, 2, and 2. That's quite nice and big. Then I'm going to rename this cube to enemy, and I'm going to add a tag to it. Now you guys can check that I have already added tags to this. One down here called enemy and one called life. These tags are extremely important. If you don't have these tags, the script will not run, because we are checking for the tag once you collide with a collider. So we're setting up the enemy tag here. I'm going to show you guys how to add a new tag. So if you click on the tag element there, drop down box, and you go down to the bottom, you click add tag. You get a list of tags in the scene right now, and then you just hit the little plus icon here, type your new tag. This is my tag in there, and that will be added. Then you go back to the component you want to add that tag to, click the drop down button and select the tag from the tag menu. However, we are just going to use enemy. I've capitalized it all, and that's basically it. Now I already have a material for enemy, which is just a basic red diffuse color. Then I'm going to go ahead, and I can see that the basic box already comes with a box collider, which is fantastic, which means I don't have to waste any time on this. I'll place my enemy right around there. In fact, I'm going to make him a little bigger. I'm going to make him 5 by 5 by 5. You know, let's stir it up a little bit and make the scene a little bit more interesting. Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and right click on enemy in the hierarchy and duplicate it. And then I'm going to drag it over to the other side of the screen. Pretty much the same distance apart, that's what I want. So I'm going to place that one there, that one there. Now I'm going to go into the inspector panel, rename this and call it life. And then I'm going to just select the life tag, which I've already added, and if you haven't added this, you should add it now. And then I'm just going to drag a new material onto it. Now again, I already have a material here called life, which is just a blue material for life. Alright, so that's it. Now let's play the scene and check what happens. I have my sphere in the middle and I can't go through the cubes on screen. I can just ride into them, or roll into them rather, which is great because that's exactly what I want. Now let's go about setting up our actual health bar. So I'm going to go to game object right here at the top menu, and I'm going to go down to UI and I'm going to add an image. Now once I do that, if you watched the previous tutorial, on the pause menu you'll know that canvas automatically gets added to the scene, which is your actual rect or region for the all the UI. An image gets added to the canvas, and an event system gets added, which just gives you basic input modules. Now our image, we're going to just right click and rename it, and we're going to call this health BG. BG for a background. Now next we're going to just go ahead, and if you click on health BG and you select your anchor point to the left upper corner, and then we're just going to go ahead and zero out all the values so that we have it positioned in the top left corner. We're now going to drag it into the slot where we want it, which is roughly there, and then we're going to resize it. Now I found that 300 pixels wide by about 10 pixels high was quite a good height, and then I'm going to just realign it the way I want it. Now, again, because I like stirring things up a little bit, I'm going to change the background color of this to a very similar color than the last one, but instead of doing the foreground color in a dark red, I might do like a yellow or an orange color for this one, for our health bar. So that you'll see, that's going to be our background color. Then I'm going to go and I select health BG and I duplicate it, I rename it health top. Alright, then I'm going to select the color here. I think, yeah, let's go for like that orangish color. That's pretty cool. Orangish yellow color almost. Now you'll notice that the canvas system has a sort of layering system. Things that are at the top will be right at the back in your scene. So if I take health BG and I drag it to the top, then suddenly health BG is above the health top image. So that's basically it. So make sure that your health BG is at the top of your canvas hierarchy so that it will be behind the actual color graphic. Now next thing we want to do is we want to set up the pivot points for our actual health bar. So right now, if I change the scale value in the inspector panel on the right here, under rect transform in the inspector panel, if I change the scale on the X, it will scale towards the middle, which could be a very cool effect, no doubt, but it's not really what we want. So let's set that to 1. Now for our pivot, we're going to actually go ahead and say on our pivot on the X, instead of having it at 0.5, which is exactly in the middle, we're going to set it to 0, which will move our pivot from here in the middle to on the side. Now if we slowly taper it down, you'll see that our actual health bar grows. Now obviously this doesn't compensate for any overgrowth or undergrowth of that bar, but we'll be handling that in script, so it doesn't really matter. But this will give you that smooth animation effect which you do want. So we're going to set it to 1 and just leave it there for now, and then I'm going to save the scene. Now while we're here, we might as well create our panel. Again, if you guys haven't watched the pause menu tutorial, I suggest you watch it because it really is quite insightful on how to do the panels and the pop-up dialogues. We're going to add a panel, so game object, UI, panel. I'm going to rename this panel to Restart Dialog. Then I'm going to go and select the anchor point. Right now it's set to stretch. We want it to just be set to the center point, so in the exact middle. Then I'm going to set the width to around 300 wide by 200 high. Again, I'm going to mix it up a little bit. I'm going to change the background color here to something different. I actually think I'm quite liking this yellow, sort of yellow orangish look, so let's go for that. Let's sort of stick with that a little bit. Okay, so that's going to be our pop-up dialog. Now we're going to go and create another game object, UI text. I'm going to drag it into the restart dialog so that it is now all a part of the restart dialog. I'm then going to set all the positioning to 0 so that our text is actually in the dialog. Then under the text script, I'm going to change it to "You are dead." So that makes it pretty different from the last one, at least. We're going to change the text color to a white, I think, yeah. And we're going to center align it and push up the font size. Now again, if you aren't familiar with any of this positioning and sort of changing the values and all of that, I'm not covering that in this tutorial, so I do suggest you check out that pause menu tutorial to see exactly how to do all of this stuff. Now just for the hell of it, I'm actually going to duplicate this text and I'm going to change the color to a dark gray, and then I'm just going to change the layering so that the darker one is behind the white one, and then I'm going to pull it down and push it to the side. And okay, right now you're not seeing too much of an effect. Make it a darker black and you'll see it looks sort of like a drop shadow, which is just a little trick to make it look a little more interesting. Now next I'm going to go and add one more component, which is game object, UI and button. This will be our restart button. Now all I'm going to do here is make sure that it is in the hierarchy of the restart dialog, so then when I disable the restart dialog, the whole thing disappears. Then I'm going to zero out the position of the button, make it sure that it's relative to the panel by setting this back to center and pulling it down just a little bit. Then I'm going to open the hierarchy of the button, go to the text value and just change it to restart, or let's say try again. Okay, so that's basically it, and then just for the sake of it I'm going to rename the button to restart btn. That's basically it, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to disable this dialog because we don't want to really see it right now. Shouldn't be in our way. Okay, so next thing is next. We're going to now go about the scripting. As you guys know, we've now set up the entire scene. We have all our little all our little components already in the scene. We've set up our pivot of our health bar. We've set up our little pop-up dialog. Now we're going to piece it all together. So we're going to just go and create a new script. So in your project view, just right click and say create C# script. We're going to call this health control. Okay, double click on that and it will open in MonoDevelop or whatever you're using to edit your scripts. Now what we want to do firstly is we're going to create some variables. Actually, before we continue anything, we're going to go and we're going to just import our UI system from the Unity engine. So we're going to go right ahead and we're going to add right under here, if you see on the second line, I'm going to say using Unity engine .ui. What that will do is it will import all the components that you require in the Unity to actually control things like graphics, sliders, buttons, etc. Now the only reason we're importing this is because we have a variable that is the image. So you guys remember that when we added the health BG and health top, we had game object UI add image, and then the image controller here on the right controls the color. Now all of this can be used when manipulating your value. For instance, we could have the health bar green when it's full, and as it empties out it slowly transitions into red using a color loop. The reason we want it is because we want to access the rect.scale. So the rect transform scale. Now we'll just be adding it to the local scale, but All those things are relative to that pivot point, so this is why we need to access it via the UI engine. Okay, so let's add a couple of variables really quickly. We'll go in here and we'll create a new public image. Now this image component that has been imported comes from the package unity.ui, so without it we wouldn't have been able to do that. And we're going to call this health bar. This will be the actual health bar graphic, the top one, the red one or the yellow one, whichever color you've chosen. Next, we're going to create a public float value, and we're going to call this health. Okay, this value is a value between 0 and 100. Next, we're going to be creating a public game object, and we're going to call this one restart dialog. So then why am I not using the panel component? Well, I want to use the setActive method, which is attached to each and every game object in Unity. So we're using the game object for this specific one to hide it and show it. It makes it a little bit easier and quicker. Now I'm just going to open up my finished script so that I can just glance back and forth so that I don't make as many mistakes as I did the last time around. Okay, so first and foremost, let's create a couple of methods. We're going to need the update method. Then we're going to create a custom method here called void check health. So void check health. Alrighty, that takes no arguments, and we open it and then we close it. Now check health is pretty simple. Sorry for that bit of background noise here. Check health is pretty simple. It basically takes the value of health, divides it by 100, and then will scale the bar accordingly. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to say health bar dot rect transform dot local scale. Okay, local scale equals, I think, yeah, equals, let me just check this quickly, equals a new vector3. Now our x value will be health, right, divided by 100 times, actually no, just health divided by 100. Yeah, that's it basically, because that will give us a value between 0 and 1, a float value. So that's perfect. Then for our y value, we'll just say we want this to be health bar dot rect transform dot local scale dot y, and the same for z, health bar dot rect transform dot local scale dot z. Okay, then we're going to say if health is less than or equal to 0.0f, and this is where we'll add our restart script. We're going to move back to this in a second, so just do that for now, and in your update function add check health immediately. I like splitting it up. People are going to say to me, yeah, well, that's not so optimal, you should have just put that whole script inside of the update method. True, but eventually your update method will become really clustered and it will become confusing to read. So if I just paste back here, you'll see that the only thing difference here is that I have show restart dialog true. Now that's another method, and we're going to be creating it soon. Now the next method that we will be creating is, in fact, you know what, let's do it. Let's do our show restart dialog. Okay, so we're going to do a public void, public because this one we want accessible from anywhere else in the game. We're going to say show restart dialog, and then we're going to say it's a boolean argument C. I just use C because I don't know, it's the way I do it. Okay, then if C is true, then we want to say restart dialog, which is our game object up here, dot set active equals true, and then we're going to say time scale equals 0.0f. I'm not going to discuss why I'm doing this, but the time scale basically just pauses the game, as most of you do know. Alright, next we're going to add an else statement, and this is now if it is not true, we're going to say time.timescale equals 1, so it's unpaused, and restart dialog equals false. Or sorry, restart dialog dot set active is false. So that's pretty simple. In fact, actually I made the same mistake last time. Instead of calling the restart dialog dot set active twice, we can just cut that off, and we can just remove them from both. So it's if C is true, then just change the timescale, else just change it back, and always change restart dialog dot set active to the same value as C, which is passed as an argument, and makes it a bit more efficient, at least for those of you that are super strict on efficiency, which we should be. Okay, next we're going to create another one, and we're going to call this public void restart. Now this will restart the level, so it's pretty simple. To restart the same level is really easy, and you don't even have to add the level to the build settings or anything. So it's very simple. You're going to say application dot load level, which is the method to load the level. Then we're going to say application as an argument dot loaded level. So that's the current level that you're on. That's as complex as the restart function is. Now we'll be just calling the restart directly from the button in the scene, so it will be pretty easy to set up. Okay, so we have three more methods that we'll be adding in here really quickly. So one more to go here. In fact, before we get to that, in your start method, just go there and add in the show restart dialog and pass it the value false, so that it does not show the restart dialog when it starts. And then in your check health method, if health is less than or equal to 0.0, then show restart dialog is true, so pass the argument true. Next we're going to add the void, or public void again, because we want this accessible from all areas of the game. Public void add health with a float argument, and we'll say amount. Then if health plus amount is greater than 100.f. So if the amount being passed would cause health to go greater than the allowed value, which is 0 to 100, then just set health to the maximum, which is 100.f. Else, if it does not exceed that, health plus equals amount. So that just adds amount to health. That's it. That's add health done. Next thing we want to do is public void subtract health. Same concept. We're going to pass add a parameter which will be passed as an argument, call it amount. Then if health minus amount is less than or equal to, okay, rather just less than, let me just check this quickly, I think it's just less than, yeah, okay, so if it is less than 0.0f, then just set it to 0, so 0.0f. Else, if it does not exceed the minimum amount, then health minus equals amount. So that's pretty simple stuff. It's just basic manipulation of the data. Now the last method that we'll be adding is the method that actually does the subtraction and addition here. This is the built-in on-collision method, on-collision enter specifically. So once it hits. The reason we're using that is because the rigid body along with the collider already detect these collisions for you. Makes it very simple to add or subtract health. Now this could be anything. You could trigger subtract health or add health by a life pack that the player picks up, subtract health by a player being hit by another player. Really, that's why we make it public. You can pass it any amount. So what we're going to do here is we're going to say void on collision enter. Very important that you capitalize the O, the C, and the E. It has to be exactly the way that you type it here, because we are using an interface here to access it. Okay. Then we're gonna just use the collision. We're gonna pass collision here, and we're gonna call it other. That is basically when a collision occurs, it takes the collision object, which is called other, and passes it to this method. Alright. Then we're going to say if other.collider, so we're accessing the collider of the object that has been hit, dot compare tag, which is the method that we'll be using, and we'll check if the tag is equal to enemy, which is all in capitals for me, or whatever tag you're setting up. This could be spikes, this could be water, it could be anything. And then as in the branch of that system, we're going to say subtract, so subtract health, and then you pass it the float variable. Now I'm going to be passing it 30.f. okay. So there we go, subtract, what have I done wrong here? Nothing. Okay, I just haven't closed the method yet, so it's giving me the red bar there. As soon as I close the entire method, you'll see that it goes away. So then we're going to add an else branch here. So if other collider.compared tag is enemy, subtract health to the value of 30. This value could be anything from 0.01 to 100. So you could do an instant death or a really slow death, like a poisoning, whatever. Okay, else, we want to do else if, okay, other.collider, okay, other.collider.compare tag is life. Again, I've done it all in capitals. This would be whatever tag you want it to be. Medical pack, doctor, whatever. Alright. Then you're going to call the method add health, and you're going to give it the value that you want. Okay. We're going to make it 30.f again. Okay. Because, again, this is just a little rough work that we're doing. Now, I just want to check through my other script. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So if you followed this exactly to the T, this script should work perfectly. And if I haven't missed anything, it should work perfectly. We're going to test it in a second and find out. I'm going to show you how to set it all up. So we're just going to run through it really quickly. We've got our variables here, health bar, health, and restart dialog. We then have our methods, start, update, check health, on collision enter, subtract health, add health, show restart dialog, and actually restart the level. Okay, so if you missed any of that, just go back and watch the video again. I know this was a lot of coding in comparison to what we've been doing in the previous tutorials. So let's just check if that clears error free. Great stuff, no errors here. Now I want you to take your health control and drag it onto your player. The reason we're dragging it onto a player is that way we have our health value always attached to the player. We can then reference that health value from any other script that we might add to this player. So then we're going to do the quick setup. Now in your inspector panel, you'll see that the health control is now part of this player's script. Once we go down here, we're going to say health bar. So I want you to draw health top, which is the colored health bar, onto the health bar image component that it requires. Set your health to 100, which is full. If you want the game to start out with 50, you can do that. It doesn't really matter. Next, you're going to go ahead and just say the restart dialog. So just drag your restart dialog from your canvas into the restart dialog here. Then I want you to actually show or enable your restart dialog open the hierarchy, go to restart button. In your inspector panel, scroll down to the bottom of the button, and in the on-click function there, just click the little plus icon, select your player from the object, so go down to player in the scene, then select the function, which is health control, and then set it to restart. That will automatically make this button restart the game. So it's pretty simple stuff. Then go back to your restart dialog, just hide it again, save your scene, that's it. Make sure you save your scene, because I've lost myself quite a few times here. Okay, make sure your enemy has the enemy tag, make sure your life has the life tag, and other than that, if we play and we click our player, quick test that we can do is to just, actually let me just restart this with maximize on play enabled, and if we now, let's see, if we just roll right into the enemy here, you'll see that our life has decreased by 30. Again, for a more smooth transition, make that amount less. Make it on collision stay or on collision exit, depending on what works best for you. Now let's see if we can get to the health. Now our health is almost empty, so we hit health, and that increases our health once again. Once our health is less than 0, we should see the pop-up, so let's just try that. Okay, it says you are dead, try again. If I click that, restarts the game. If I try getting life while my health bar is full, it will have no effect. And yeah, you guys have basically done yourself a little health bar. This isn't very complex, but it can be applied to very, very many aspects in game development. You could have building health. Every time a player attacks a building or the troops attack a building, the health decreases by 1 for each player or for each character attacking that building. You could have a first-person controller. Each time it hits a certain object or a bullet gets hit, or it gets hit by a bullet rather, it decreases by 0.5. This will give you a lot of smooth transitions. I can show you that in a quick one again. So let's say that you've got your player on the scene and he gets shot, then this health value would go down slowly. Now you'll notice that the health bar decreases very slowly, and eventually that gives you full control. Now remember that this is in the control of the script control, so I can go further than 100, but in the actual game you will never be able to go further than 100 because the script limits it. Alright, so that's basically it, guys, and I hope you guys found this insightful and that you enjoyed this as much as I enjoyed making this. Again, big up to the suggester here. I don't even know if suggester is a word, but anyway, yeah, I hope you guys did enjoy it. Please subscribe, leave a comment below, like the video, share the video, and let us know what you want to see next. Again, like I said, if you guys would like to see more about the character controls, perhaps how to create this character movement script, how to do some level design, whatever you guys want to see, please let us know in the comments below. Hit subscribe, hit like, and yeah, keep on learning.